Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. Now, on today's topic, I wanted to speak about what it's like to be a new parent and the kind of things that I guess people don't really talk about, but they really should. And there's a couple of points that me, as a pretty new dad, that I figured out the very hard way, and I wish that there was someone there to tell me about these things. So the first one being, it's okay if you don't have a bond with your baby straight away. 2, there's no such thing as a perfect baby or a perfect parent. And 3, talk about it. So, the first one, when I became a dad, and I think the fact about the bond is kind of a little bit more relevant to perhaps dads, because I think mums inherently have been carrying this baby for about 9 months through their pregnancy. Everything that they go through, whether it is the morning sickness, they obviously can feel the size, they're able to feel the heartbeat, they're able to feel the kicking, and it is magical for the dads to be there to, kind of see it as well on the ultrasounds and all that kind of stuff. And it's great. You obviously find a bond and you do start to get attached. But one of the weirdest things that happened for me was, especially when my daughter was born, obviously there's a flurry of emotions. You're really overwhelmed, both you and your wife, there's tears and there's, oh my God, you're my flesh and blood. And it's great. But then as, the next kind of couple of days go on or a couple of weeks go on, you start to realize that, I don't know if I love this thing the way the world has told me that I should. It's almost like a new relationship. It's like when you start dating someone and you're not completely madly in love with that person straight away. It takes a little bit of time to build, to get to know them, to, find out things that you like, you don't like, and then, off you go. Now, from a mother's point of view, she has kind of had this flesh and blood of hers in her for the longest period of time. She's obviously given birth to it. The babies come out, there's breastfeeding. So there's this bond that's kind of happening. There's that skin to skin touch. There's a lot of things that kind of go on, and it's a magical thing. And the baby's first heartbeat, and then being able to hear them kick, and, all kinds of things. These are things that mums experience, but dads don't really physically get to experience those things. So now when the baby has come out, you are, generally speaking, your wife or, the mother of the child is going to be, resting a little bit. So they're going to be a little bit quite exhausted rather, either from the surgery, if you've kind of gone down the surgery route, or from the natural birth, and, just their body is healing and they're on medication and whatnot, but they're still expected to obviously feed the baby, and learn about everything, because there's so much information coming from the midwives and the nurses, the doctors, just, telling you about how to care for your baby. And you are trying to be as alert as possible to try and learn all this information. And then when you get home, you kind of feel like, oh my God, I'm on my own. And as much as you're trying to build that beautiful bond, and you have this image in your head about how it's going to be when the baby comes home, and they're going to have these perfect rosy cheeks, and, they'll make a little wah noise, and then you can go and feed them. And then straight after that, you can just do their nappy, and then, you'll just burp them and they'll go to bed. And then you can, in the time that the baby's napping, maybe we'll have a nap. Yeah, sure, let's do that. None of that actually ever really tends to happen. Because when you come home, it is so task-based. You are going to try, and especially mothers are going to try and breastfeed their babies. And, if you're very lucky, your baby will latch on and it's going to be perfect. But there are so many times where it's just not happening. And especially for the mother, it can be such a tedious task where they feel so guilty if they're not able to produce enough milk, or if the baby's not latching on, then they feel that they failed as a mother. And it can happen quite often, which just adds to the flurry of the other things that are going on, which is sleeplessness and absolute exhaustion, plus their body's recovering and healing, as well as the other millions of things that probably need to get done. Like, do we need to consider buying formula? And, you're learning how to swaddle the baby, which is not as easy as it seems. And of course, a new child has just come into your life. So the first thing you're trying to do is just make sure you're not killing it. You're trying to keep it alive. And at that point in time, your mindset, especially for a new parent, can be that, oh my God, anything and everything I'm going to do is just going to result in my baby dying. So you are so ridiculously attentive. You are trying to pay as much attention to everything that's going on, from the temperature of the milk, if the wife needs to express, or the mother of the child needs to express, and then you need to go and put it in the bottle warmer, and then you got to test it out on your hand to go, oh, is it the right temperature? Then there's the whole, what color is the baby's poo? Then there's the, what color is the milk that the mother is producing, the colostrum phase, and then it comes down to, okay, this is now normal milk phase, and then how many times a day are you feeding it? And I mean, I'm exhausted just talking about it. But to actually go through all of this with sleeplessness is something that is so hard to explain. And at that moment, to then expect that my life that has completely been turned upside down, I've gone from, perhaps sleeping, I think in a given night, they say that a person goes into like a 2 hour to 2.5 hour deep sleep cycle. I mean, that's been stolen from you. You're not doing any kind of deep sleep. You are at most able to reach REM at some point, and then after that, you're back and you are exhausted. And you are doing this day in, day out. And then this reality sinks into your head that, oh my God, my life is never going to be the same again. This is just going to be it. And through all that, you go, well, why am I not feeling a bond with my baby? I haven't felt its kicks inside me. I haven't felt its heartbeat from, the time that it came in. You've suddenly come here. You've destroyed my wife's body completely. She is not sleeping. I am not sleeping. I feel like a horrible person. I feel like I am not good at this at all. And you start to lose your mind. So the first thing, guys, and the ladies, is it's okay if you don't have a bond straight away. There is a lot that is going on in your life, and believe me, the bond comes. For me personally, I think it was around the 4-month mark that there was just a day where I went, oh my God, this is amazing. The way she looks at you, the way you look at her. I mean, not to mention I had to go to work as well, I took a few weeks off and then I had to go to work. And so I wasn't really there for much of the action either, obviously. I come home in the evening and then my wife just goes, here you go. And then I'm looking at the baby going, right, okay, how do I do this? And, you're trying to learn everything. So it is really, really tough. So give yourselves a break and just know you are not the only ones if you feel like I don't have a bond with my baby. It happens to a lot of people. So believe me, it is completely fine if you don't have a bond with your baby straight away. Work towards it, and believe me, it'll come in time. The second one, there is no perfect baby and there is no perfect parent. There is nothing worse than people and parents out there who especially take these glorious photos or talk about these amazing things and put them up on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it might be. And they will tell you about how amazing this feeling is to have a baby. And then some days you'll go visit their house to go see them or the baby, or they'll bring the baby out. And they just look so in control. And the baby is perfect and it's nicely, quietly sleeping. And, you'll hold it and the baby's like giggling and smiling. And you're like, oh, wow, so beautiful. And then when it's your turn, your baby will never smile. It's crying. There's food splattered, or they're vomiting in front of people, or the second someone else other than yourself holds them, they start bawling their eyes out and they're crying, or they've got snort coming out of their nose. And you're like, holy crap, what is going on? You look at other people's kids and you'll go, well, that baby feeds so perfectly. Why can't my baby feed? Oh, those people look like they've got it so under control. Why don't we have it under control? Their baby is rolling over at this time, or turning, or they're hiccuping, or they're sitting up, or they're doing whatever. Why hasn't my baby done that? Their baby just said mama and dada. My baby hasn't done that. It's okay. Every human being is different. It's like growing up, your mom comparing you to going, hey, well, why aren't you like your friend? Your friend did this, your friend did that. Why can't you do that? Why can't you get marks like they did in school? And there's nothing worse than being compared. So there's nothing worse than comparing yourself as a parent or comparing your baby, even though you never really mean to, but somewhere these expectations sit in. And when your baby doesn't do something compared to other babies that you think that it should, you then start to hold yourself responsible. And that's a really negative mindset to get into. You start thinking, oh my God, why am I failing at this? Why has my baby not done this? Am I supposed to do something more? Then you jump on Google and now suddenly you're reading up a whole bunch of different information where people are going to start throwing things at you. Maybe you should consider this. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should do that. And then you have those dinner conversations where you'll be like, oh my God, you know what I read today? So today I read that we should do this, this, this. And then, you'll try and put that into, oh my God, again, relax, breathe. You as a parent are perfect. What you're doing is fine. Take your time. Like I said, when the bond builds, you, your family, your bond with your baby is completely different to what someone else's bond is with their baby. The areas where you think that they're succeeding at is probably something you might be failing at in your own view. But then there are so many things that they must be failing at that you're succeeding at. But just because they don't put that on social media, you think to yourself, oh, well. See, even when people put stuff on social media, like many a times, they're going to take photos of something, photos of their family baby, and you're like, the baby's looking at the camera, our baby never looks at the camera, or, what a glorious, perfect family. But what you don't know is that's probably take number 37 that they finally got right. And at this point in time, your baby would have lost their mind if you were to do this. It's okay. You're not in competition, right? So much weighting we put to those family photos and the kind of things that we should do and the milestones that we think our baby should hit and why aren't they hitting it. By all means, if it's something to be deeply concerned about, speak to a physician, speak to your GP, speak to all the pediatricians out there and whatnot. Do all kinds of readings, do everything that you want to do. But just make sure that you are not adding additional load to your life. This is just a great family and you should do what works for you. There is no such thing as a perfect baby. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. In fact, there's no such thing as perfection, really. You just have to just do what's going on and just do the best that you can at it. So that's my topic number 2. And the last part is talk about it. Please, 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 please. It's like my web channel is called Let's Talk About It. It's been so many times that we realized, and I realized the hard way after my baby came along, that there are things that I went through which I thought I was the only one going through it, or my wife was the only one going through it, or our family was the only one going through it. And then later on, I realized that, hang on a minute, everybody goes through it. It's just that people don't talk about it. Like, I don't remember the exact month, but I think it was around month 3 or 4, when my baby girl broke out into these like little rashes all over her cheeks. And I was like, what is going on? And we took her to hospital and, we found out later on that it was just this hormonal changes that a baby goes through, and it's called milia. And we're like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, it's very common. We're like, well, how come we haven't seen that in other kids? We then spoke to our friends about it, and they're like, oh, yeah, it happened to us too. And we're like, well, why didn't you people tell us? And funny enough, a year after my wife gave birth, some friends of ours, they gave birth about a year later. And so then they went through this whole milia concept as well. But at that point in time, I'd already told my friend about it. I said, hey, these kind of things happen. So when their baby broke out into the rash, his wife freaked out. But he goes, hang on, wait a minute. I remember that my friend mentioned something about how there's these hormonal imbalances and whatnot. So he was able to keep his wife a little bit calmer. He gave us a call going, hey, around what month was it that you guys went through this? Turned out it was roughly about similar timing. And then they went to the hospital and they found out, yep, it is more or less the same thing. They would have gone to the hospital regardless. It's just the fact that they went feeling a little bit more comforted about the fact that these things happen. Because of the social media era that we live in, we feel as though we need to show the world how perfect we are. Look at these perfect meals that we're eating. Look at these perfect holidays that we're going on. Look at these perfect selfies that we're doing. The ladies, the perfect makeup that they're doing. The lads, the perfect clothes that they're wearing. All that. Look at this perfect car that I'm driving. But nobody actually knows about the struggles that people go through to get to that. I remember, in fact, it was some quote that I read once where someone was asked, how does it feel to be an overnight success? And they went, well, it's taken me 10 years to become an overnight success. And it's kind of like that. These people can put up all these great photos, but you don't actually know what happens in the background. And so similarly, please don't live your life by just going through experiences but not sharing it with the world, because you are afraid that people might either judge you or they might think of you as bad people. I have a lot of friends, including me and my wife. We like to go on holidays without our baby at times. So we've promised ourselves that we're going to go on one holiday with the baby and one holiday without, so that we as a couple can connect and forget about being parents, and we can just be a husband and wife. We can go back to being like a boyfriend-girlfriend phase that we used to be in. And all these kind of things, when we spoke to our friends about it, they got inspired and they said, yeah, maybe we should do it too. And then they did it and they came back and they feel more rejuvenated, more connected with each other. And when you're connected as a team, you're able to be a lot more helpful to your baby and to your family. It's like, why do people go on holidays? You go on holidays because you want to rejuvenate. So these are the type of things, and it happens when you talk about it. You talk about your struggles. You talk about the fact that, you know what, maybe this is how you should swaddle your baby. You can talk about the fact, oh, you know what, some days my baby just cries and I have no idea what it wants. There are certain things that you can talk about, like, the other night my baby wasn't going to sleep and I had to put her in the car and I had to drive for an hour and a half so that she could fall asleep. There's just a million and one things. There's times where I have had vomit, poo, pee, all three of those, and before I've even brushed my teeth in the morning, There, you can talk about the fact that your baby is a fussy eater. You can talk about the fact that you are not a perfect parent. You can talk about the fact that you might have gone through postnatal depression. You can talk about how things are really tough, how you find it so hard to keep a clean house, to keep clean clothes, and to keep your baby fed, and to go to work, and to be sleep deprived, and how you're actually struggling and you would love some help. You should talk about it. So guys, this is just the 3 top things that I think we should talk about. If you like this channel, please go ahead and hit like, and please subscribe, and please share it with your friends. The idea is to talk about this more and more. And if there's anything that you guys feel that we should talk about next, please hit me up. All the best, guys. Let's talk about it.